With, without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
I think this is more significant symbolically than it is really tangibly. So this is not something that I think will change the course of the war or change the way that the Trump administration has been going about its negotiations with Iran. But it does signal, I think, significant political shifts in the United States. So what we saw is some of the known opponents of the war, including Tom Massey in Kentucky, voted against it, but other Republicans joined him in voting against it this time. And I think the fact that so many Republicans, a record number of Republicans are voting against it, I think is telling that the sort of the stronghold that Donald Trump has had on the Republican Party is still significant, still notable, but it is not ironclad. And we're seeing increasing numbers of Republicans willing to buck the president.
As you probably have been watching. So from 1922 to present, it really never worked because we took a strong action for a different reason. So they were reciprocating it.
Mr. President, can you explain why?
I think is significant and telling of the political moods, but is by no means going to actually lead to, in my view, legislation that can override a very likely presidential veto. Like so many other presidents, Donald Trump has pushed the powers of the executive. But at the same time, he, like all of his predecessors, is also subject to the constraints of the executive. And that includes areas where legislation needs to be passed. And in order to pass legislation, you need enough support. And as a president with an approval rating in the 30s, it's not easily found.
The Washington Monument, the Lincoln, you take a look at the Washington Monument, beautiful, Lincoln Memorial, as you said, but
being a Republican administration, the Trump administration is uniquely sensitive to domestic pressures, not only to deal with the economy, but also to not engage in the sort of diplomacy that the Obama administration engaged in, which was in many ways economic incentives for cessation of nuclear ambitions and in the enrichment of uranium. It's really hard to say what the Trump administration is pursuing here. We can see broad contours of what looks like some outcomes that they're pursuing, but the most obvious one, what they started with, was a seemingly regime change, and that's off the table according to most accounts of where the Trump administration is. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't look like there is any clear, easy, and quick way out of this situation between the U.S. and Iran. This will very likely stay with the Trump administration for many months to come, because when the Trump administration has made what many deem to be progress in any sort of agreement with Iran, many of Donald Trump's own party members were against it because they said that's exactly what the Obama administration's deal with Iran was.